Today, I thought it'd be helpful. I thought it'd be, purposeful. Today, I thought it'd be best if we focus on why I hate the term ADHD. What is going on? Happy Monday morning, or happy Monday evening, or happy whatever day it is, whatever time it is that you listen to this or watch this. Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I am your host, Mark Hendrickson. And if you are brand new to this podcast, what you can expect is open and authentic conversations about things like mental health and self-development and how to get your life moving in the right direction, feeling like you're moving on the right track. And even if you're not where you want to be in life right now, at this very moment, at least feeling like you have the confidence to say that you are moving in the right direction. And if you are not new to this podcast, if you are a returning listener, if you're a returning viewer, a returning guest, then thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me on this journey, joining in on the movement, supporting the show, and supporting the idea that I think it's best if we try and make ourselves stronger, make ourselves better, 1%, 10%, 20%, or even 0.5% every single day, make ourselves better, and along the journey, lifting others up in the process. And so thank you for coming in here. Whether you're brand new to this podcast or not, you are the reason that I do what I do. Yes, you. Right there, you that I'm pointing at. If you're listening to the audio version, I'm pointing at you. Thank you for joining in on this. You are the reason that I do what I do. So today, I thought it'd be helpful. I thought it'd be, purposeful. Today, I thought it'd be best if we focus on why I hate the term ADHD. And, this is something that I've talked about before on the podcast. I've mentioned it a few times in interviews, but I thought I would just make a little solo episode and break it down for you guys, why I hate this term and why I think it's used as an excuse for a lot of people to, continue living the way that they live, or why I think it's a reason why people feel bad about some of the personality traits that they have. And so I thought I'd maybe go about it because there's kind of two ways that I view this whole predicament. And, well, let's jump into it. So the first thing is, we look at normal personality traits and normal ways of being or behaving or thinking or whatever it could be, and we categorize it and we diagnose it as ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I believe is the actual term for it. And I think that this can be extremely dangerous in many ways, like I said, and I'll kind of dive into both sides of it. So the very first thing, like I was saying, is, we see these people, a lot of the times it's children, and the majority of the times it's men, even though this does impact women as well. And, a lot of the times, like myself included, we get diagnosed as kids. And I was diagnosed at around 9 years old, I think it was, around 8 or 9 years old. And I had my teachers basically telling my mother that I was disruptive in class. I was always moving. I was always talking. I was always fidgeting. I had trouble focusing on things that I wasn't interested in. And, I always wanted to socialize. I always wanted to kind of run and play and socialize and basically do what a natural kid, especially young boys, what they would want to do. And this was seen as like a reason to start to medicate me and dull me down, and so that I could conform and sit in a class and be in a room inside and be quiet. And, these are things that are not natural, especially to a lot of young boys, and like I said before, young girls or women or men, or a lot of people fall into this category, and this can be natural. And it's basically how a lot of human beings function. If you look at, a lot of work that human beings have done over the years, over like pretty much our entire lifespan, we've always been social creatures. We've always been moving around. You can look at like different hunter-gatherer tribes. Not a lot of them sit inside in rooms and listen to one person speak while everyone else just sits there diligently, quietly, and learns to just focus on one task. Usually you're learning multiple things a day. You're usually moving around a lot. You're usually working with your hands. You're usually socializing. And I feel like that is a more natural way for human beings to act, behave, and live. And so we're taking very natural tendencies and behaviors within human beings, and we're diagnosing them as a disorder. And not only that, but it makes someone feel ashamed of behaving in their own natural tendencies and fulfilling the needs that their body has, like moving around all the time, or wanting to socialize and wanting to speak up and be funny. And for a lot of people, that's part of your personality, is to make people laugh and be funny. And to feel ashamed of that is, I think that's downright evil. I think that making kids feel like they need to be medicated, or making parents feel ashamed for not medicating their kids for this reason is it's insane to me. And so I think that that's one side of it, is just like kind of taking natural human tendencies and then calling it a disorder, and saying that, because you can't assimilate, because you can't conform to this one environment, you have this issue. And you're going to need to be going through therapy, and you're going to need to find ways of coping with natural tendencies and medicating yourself to change your brain chemistry such that it doesn't feel this compulsive need to fulfill what your body is actually supposed to do. And it seems backwards to me, and it seems asinine, because a lot of these traits are actually things that can carry out throughout your life and make you successful. Like, being able to, or the, I want to say the ability, but I also want to say just the natural tendency, and that term is going to come up a lot while I speak about this, because I think that it is a natural state to be in. But to hyper focus on things that interest you, and to have troubles focusing on things that don't interest you, I feel like that's actually going to carry you further towards success. Because I can't tell you how many times that I've been working in construction, something that again. I'm speaking to people often. I'm talking to customers. I'm talking to my coworkers. I'm joking around. We're making the day lighter and more fun, and going and overcoming challenges through humor and through speaking to others and being able to communicate with other people in a form of, hey, I struggle with this. Can you help me with that? And not to mention just moving around all day, lifting things up and stimulating your body and your mind at the exact same time, and fixating on problems that you come across, and this doesn't just come up in the trades. This comes up in many different ways. Like, I think that that's one of the reasons why I was successful when I worked in the restaurant industry as well, because as a server is the exact same thing. You're on your feet, you're walking around, you're running around all day, you're bringing people things, you're chatting with tables, you're making them laugh, you're making them smile, all of these different things. In many different jobs, being able to be hyperactive and move around and speak to people all day, that's a huge advantage for you. And so to say that that's a disorder is insane to me. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. These are natural human tendencies, things that we feel more gravitated towards, and yet it's labeled as a disorder. And it's weird to me, because these are basically just personality traits. And you never look at someone who, as a kid, is, well, maybe you do. And that's even more crazy to think that, sometimes we look at other kids that want to be in quiet spaces, can sit still. They can sit there and read a book about things that they're just sitting there reading a book, and they're a little more introverted, and they don't want to speak to other people all the time. And society needs those people as well. I'm not always naturally one of those people, but there's an array of different personality traits. Of some people want to be active all day, some people are more comfortable sitting down all day, some people are more comfortable speaking to people all day, and some people are more comfortable not speaking to people all day. And there's just such a huge array of different personality traits. And these differences that we have in our personalities aren't disorders. That is the beautiful spectrum of human beings' personalities. And it's so weird that we try and categorize, oh, this is an antisocial person. This is a very social person. This person can fixate on whatever task is at hand. And this person is more compulsive and more reactive to their environment and hyper fixates on what they want to focus on. And there's all these different areas that we all excel in. And there's all these different gifts that we were given and all these different skills that, some people are born with a certain skill set. Some people are born with a different skill set. And we want to start to label these things as disorders or personality disorders or, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or, there's all these different labels that we want to create to make us feel like, hey, this isn't natural, this isn't normal, when we know that human beings, have been like this forever. And there's a reason that we're like this, because society needs so many different personality traits, and it's not helpful to start to label these things as, oh, you have this disorder or you have that disorder. It might be helpful in some ways to say, hey, these are some of my strengths and weaknesses, but that's not a mental disorder. And that kind of brings me to the second way of what I was going to say. The second way we can look at this, the second way that I view it at least, is that we see different people with different skill sets and we think, oh, I wasn't born with that skill set, so I will never have that skill set. I'm not that type of person. I can't do that. I've never been like that. I never will be like that. I can't do that. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel whatever. And we hear that all the time. People are like, oh, I have ADHD, so I can't do that. Oh, I'm antisocial, so I can't do that. Oh, I have this disorder, I have that disorder, and I can't do that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there isn't physical disabilities, there isn't physical disorders or anything like that. I'm just saying in regards to our personality traits and skill sets, I believe that this doesn't apply. And I think that, I have started to notice these things in myself, and I've started to adapt, and I've started to find ways to try and get around these things. And I think that this is a more helpful way to view these things for myself. Like, to be able to sit still is a difficult task for me. It's always been tough for me to sit down and read or sit down and journal or sit down and meditate, to be able to focus on, certain tasks that I don't find interesting, that don't stimulate me in the ways that I like to be stimulated in. And, I think that it's important for all of us to be able to develop skills that we're going to need in the future and maybe that we need right now, and find ways to adapt ourselves so that we can accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. And a lot of the times that's overcoming tasks that we're not naturally good at. And so there's many different ways. I think that these things at the end of the day are skills. And I think that a lot of the times we trick ourselves, and I think society does as well. It kind of tricks us into thinking that because we don't have these skills at birth, we don't have innate skills just given to us, that we can't develop these things, like to be able to sit down and focus, or to be able to overcome obstacles that we're facing. And I think that it's unhelpful to look at these types of skills and say, because I've never been able to do that before in the past, I'll never be able to do that ever. I think that a lot of these skills, like being able to focus on one thing at a time, we have a society of people that, they'll say, oh, I have attention deficit disorder. I can't focus on one thing at a time. And those are the people that are, constantly looking at 15-second videos on their phone and looking and swiping for the next dopamine rush. These are the people that never actually try to build the skill of being able to focus on one thing at once. Being able to put their phone down and sit down in a quiet room and read for an hour. Obviously that might seem like a challenge for a lot of people, but it's something that you have to develop. It's a skill set that you have to develop to be able to sit and focus on one thing at a time. And so I recommend, obviously, if you do struggle with those types of things, some of the things that I've been doing, in the last few years to develop this skill is, I do have a lot of energy. If you watch my videos and fast forward, I'm just flailing around, moving constantly. I'm always fidgeting. I'm always kind of doing these things. And a lot of the times, what I do to counteract these things is I've worked on developing this skill to be able to sit down and focus on one task at a time. And so one of the things that I do, for example, one of the tips is anytime I know that I'm going to need to sit still and sit down and focus on one thing, is I will work out first. I'll burn a bunch of energy off. I'll go for a hike. I'll go for a run. I'll go for a workout. I'll plan my paperwork and my monotonous tasks that I have to do after a jiu-jitsu class or after burning a bunch of energy, so that when I do actually sit down, it's like, okay, my body's just burnt a bunch of its energy and now it's time I can sit down and focus on one thing. I do it before all of my podcast episodes. I do it before all of my interviews. I always go for a workout or a run before I do this to try and burn off as much excess energy as I possibly can. That allows me to sit down for a longer period of time and to be able to focus without, moving too much, or having to get up and walk around partway through. And even if you do have to get up and walk around partway through, why is that such a bad thing? Maybe if that helps you refocus and do the task better, so be it. The other thing that I've been practicing to kind of combat my quote unquote diagnosed ADHD is I've been practicing reading for the last couple years. Like, the reading is not something that naturally I've been drawn towards. I literally didn't even complete a full book until I was probably like in my early 20s, 21, 22, 23 years old. And now it's become a daily practice for me to sit down and read. And I can feel myself start to get distracted. I can feel myself having the impulse to check my phone or to walk around, or, oh, I forgot I had to make a coffee. Oh, I forgot I had to go to the bathroom. Oh, I forgot I had to water some flowers. Oh, I forgot I had to check my email. Oh, I forgot. And I can feel myself doing that. And when I do notice myself doing it, I'm saying in my head internally, I notice myself doing it and I think it's happening again. And this is where I need to develop the skill set. It's the same kind of thing as, feeling your body wanting to give up in a workout. It's the same kind of feeling as, anytime that you face an obstacle, treat it as an obstacle you have to overcome. Treat it as a skill that you have to overcome. And it's not going to happen in one day. It's not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen in a month. And the other side of it is, it is a skill that you have to constantly work on. You have to constantly practice. You have to constantly renew. If I don't sit down and journal and read on a daily basis, I can feel myself start to slip. It's the same as any other muscle group. It's, if you work out your muscles and you get stronger, you stop working out for a couple months, a couple years, you can feel yourself start to get less strong. You can feel yourself start to get weaker. And so to strengthen this attention muscle, you have to do things that build attention. You also have to do things that, you also have to avoid things that break down these skills. Like I said, watching social media, like 15-second clips and constantly being needed to be stimulated by external things like watching TV, listening to music, watching, these are things that are going to degrade your amount of focus and your amount of attention, your amount of being able to sit and, like I said, focus on one thing at a time. So like I said, if you feel like you maybe struggle with being able to focus on one thing at a time, if you feel like you get irritated or irritable, or you feel hyperactive, or you feel like you don't have these skill sets, just understand that, you might be doing things that are going to be detrimental to your ability to focus. You're detrimental to your ability to sit still or to be able to do these types of things. And you might not be practicing the things that are going to be beneficial to those skills as well. And I think that it's more helpful to look at it from the point of view as a skill set, because then you feel like, hey, this is something that's within my control. I can actually change my circumstances. I can actually change my situations. There's hope for me in the end of it. And like I said in the very beginning, I don't think that anyone should feel ashamed or negative about having these natural human tendencies that are, we're told, are disorders and negative things, when these are the ways that human beings have functioned for years. There's a huge plethora of different types of people out there that have different personalities and different behaviors and different natural tendencies. And that's not a bad thing. Society needs all these different types of people. And I think that that's kind of a beautiful way to wrap this up. I think that that's kind of the best way I can kind of summarize this point of view that I have, and just say that I think that ADHD is a fucking myth. I think that it's not a real thing. And I think that it's kind of a way to kind of shirk the responsibility of being able to develop these skill sets for yourself, and to I think that it's not helpful, because I think that it just kind of brings shame, and I think that it brings guilt, and I think that it makes people feel like that their brain is broken, or their body is not functioning properly, or their brain chemistry is off, or all these different types of things, when realistically a lot of these things, like, that we see as symptoms of ADHD or any other personality disorder, like a lot of these things, the compulsiveness, the lack of attention span, the need to constantly move, the seeking of validation from other people, all these different types of things. I think that it's an avoidance of really understanding ourselves, really understanding other people, and really understanding that a lot of these things are skill sets that can be developed. It's easier to develop these things at a young age, because your brain is obviously more plastic the younger that you are, but your brain is plastic throughout your whole life. You always have that neuroplasticity, and you can always kind of carve new pathways, even though it is a little bit more difficult once these pathways have been carved already. But you can be a trailblazer. You can carve a new path in your life, and you can kind of create a new neurological pathway for yourself to start to work on these things. I think that the compulsiveness is probably one of the most difficult things to work on, but that's not to say that it can't be worked on at all. I think that, like I've been saying this entire time, I think that you can always change your circumstances, and you can always change the way your brain fires and the way that you react to a lot of the thoughts that you have, whether they're intrusive or not. And that's the way I view it. So happy Monday. I hope you guys are doing well. We did just have a mental health hike. I literally just got back from it a little while ago, and it was wicked. I got to kind of catch up with people that I haven't seen in person for a while. We got to go for a wicked hike out there in Squamish, right here in local Vancouver hike here. And if you're interested in joining in on those hikes, then just reach out to me on Instagram. It's at Risen Fallen. If you want to support the movement, you want to support the journey and the podcast, you can grab a hoodie and a tee from risenfallen.com. Beautiful, beautiful weather here. And I just wanted to kind of make this little episode for you guys. A little bit of a rant from me today. A little bit less of a, it's obviously not an interview, but a little bit of less of a personal, story, and more of a rant. And sometimes that's how it goes. And that's how it went today. So happy Monday. I hope this kind of helps you kind of change your perspective on maybe the way that you view your personality, and understand that you shouldn't feel ashamed of the way that you are, the way that your brain works, and just feel and know and understand that anything that you feel like is a deficiency, anything that you feel like is wrong with you, know that there is hope. You can change the way that you behave. You can change the way that you act. You can change the way that you think. You can change all of those different things. And it might be difficult. It might be a hard road for you. It might feel hopeless sometimes, but understand, hey, this is a weakness that I have, and it's okay. We all have weaknesses. We all have strengths, but know that you can work on your weaknesses, and you can lean into that. And you're not going to be able to solve every single weakness that you have. We're all fallible. We all have things that we're better at than others, and we all have things that we're not as good at as others. And I lived my whole life thinking, why am I the broken one? Why can I not do these things? Why are these people better at this than I am? And is there nothing that I'm good at? I lived literally my entire childhood thinking that way, that, my brain is broken. And then I had a doctor diagnose me and say, hey, you have this issue, you have that issue. And I've been diagnosed with, a couple of different things, to be 100% honest with my mental health. And I consistently felt like, this is my diagnosis and I'm fucked. This is how I'm going to be for life. And there's no way for me to change that, because some fucking doctor told me, and they're fucking smarter than me, and they're an adult. And, needless to say, I grew up and I I lived like that for a couple decades. And then in the last few years, I've realized, hey, I've actually started to get better at this thing that I was told as a kid that I'm not good at. I'm not able to do that. My brain chemistry is different. And then now realizing, I actually have a hand in this. And, some of my behaviors led to me being more compelled to have a short attention span. And I can actually develop skill sets that I never thought I could actually develop. That can be an uplifting thing. And I think that a lot of us kind of write ourselves off a little bit too early without actually developing these skills or even knowing that we can develop these skills. And so, that's pretty much it. I think that that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. But let me know what you think. Maybe you have a sibling that deals with this kind of stuff. Maybe you deal with this kind of stuff, or you have a coworker that deals with this kind of stuff. And if you do, and if you feel like this message can be helpful for them, share this episode with them and see what they think. Then maybe maybe they can draw some value from it. Or maybe you drew some value from it and you can share that with them as well. So let me know what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Leave a little review if you're listening to the podcast version of this. But other than that, I think that's a beautiful place to wrap this up. I love you all. I'm thankful for every single person that supports this show and shares the show and likes and comments and subscribes and leaves a little review. You guys, like I said in the very beginning, are the reason that I do what I do. I am going to continue on enjoying this weekend, this beautiful weather, and I hope you all get time to spend some time with your loved ones and recover and get after it for this week. Happy Monday. I'll see you all on Thursday. Much love and peace out. Bye.